Good afternoon, one and all. Welcome to a moment in the Word here at New Beginnings House of Worship. We're glad to have you join us this afternoon as we come to share a moment in God's Word that will help you throughout this day and the rest of your life. We're continuing a series on Psalms 23 entitled The Lord is My Shepherd in this series. And so last week we dealt with I shall not want. It was our lesson. And today we're going to deal with verses 2 and 3. And our title for this message is He Makes Me, He Leads Me, and He Restores Me. He makes me, leads me, and restores me. So we'll be reading from the King James Version and Psalms 23, and the word says, He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. He leads me. He restores. He makes me. He leads me and restores me. Amen. And so as we get into this lesson today, we want to give a shout out to a few people who are celebrating birthdays this week and on today mostly. First of all, Diane Payne in Augusta, Georgia, celebrating her birthday, a classmate at Lucy Lane High School. But then also we have my classmates at South Carolina State celebrating birthdays. We have Jane Williams celebrating her birthday today. God bless you. Delphine Scott and Brenda Lewis celebrated her birthday on October 21st. And then a dear friend of mine, co-worker, we worked together at Nashville School of the Arts, Steve Smith celebrating his birthday. God bless you. And Jaleesa Frazier also celebrating her birthday, one of our former students. And so, and then a special shout out to Esther Howard, the wife of my friend Barry Howard, who passed away last year. She celebrated her birthday also. I think it was on yesterday. God bless you. And so, as we get into this message today, we want you to stop and think about some things. Who is your shepherd? And one of the things we mentioned on last week is that the one way you know who's your shepherd, by the things you want. If you're constantly wanting some things that, and it's okay to want, but it's if you're constantly wanting things to the point that you're lusting after them, then you may have to wonder who is your shepherd, who's leading you, because your shepherd will create a situation where you will not want for things. He's always our provider. And that's one of the key messages in this Psalms 23, how God provides for his people. And so when we look into this psalm, and it says, he makes me to lie down in green pastures. And really what it says, he causes me to lie down in green pastures. Because the shepherd is who he is. He's a good shepherd. He's leading you into places. He's going to cause you to lie down in green pastures. That's a pasture full of newly grown, fresh, tender grass to lay in, as opposed to into a rocky surface to lay on. And so God's going to lead you into places to where you are comfortable and at rest. And we all know those times in our life that we need to just lay down and relax and take some of the burdens off of our shoulders. And when we're dealing with issues and situations, it seems like you're laying on a bed of nails because you can't get any rest. Everything is disturbing you and your mind can't get any peace at night. Well, the shepherd is going to lead you into places, into situations to where you can lay down and rest. Despite what all went on in the course of the day, despite how many problems people brought to you and how many problems came your way that you had to deal with, God will give you, or will cause you to lie down in green pastures where you can shake off all the cares of the world. Isn't it a good feeling that when you've gone through so much in one course of a day that you can just separate yourself and get into your room and just lay down, take you a good nap or something and wake up refreshed? As opposed to just constantly having to deal with this issue and that issue. You're trying to find this, and then as you're searching and trying to find ways to take care of one problem, then there's the phone, or there's the door, a knock at the door, there's someone telling you something else. Well, the Good Shepherd is going to lead you into situations to where you can lie down and have good rest. When you have all the things that are on your mind in the course of a day, that he will still give you the rest and the peace and comfort that you can't find anyplace else. And as I mentioned, you just seem like you're sleeping on a bed of nails or a bed of rocks. Your pillow is just full of rocks. You just can't get any comfort or sleep when you lay your head down. Well, the Good Shepherd is going to lead you or cause you to lie down in places that are comfortable. And he makes me to lie down in green pastures. That's good news. And again, that green pasture that he talks about, are pastures of tender green grass, as the commentator says in the Bible that I'm using here. And so we thank God for those situations where he makes us or causes us to lie down. And he uses this terminology as makes because as he's leading you along the way, he's leading you to a place where when you have to lay down and rest, that's the kind of peace and comfort that you will receive. Not only does he makes us or calls us to lie down in green pastures, but it says he leads us. He leads me beside the still waters. And that's good news. And we have to make sure that we're allowing God to lead us. There's so many things that get our attention, and on the internet, whether it's friends calling, knocks at the door, as we mentioned, there are always situations on our job. Or someone's telling us how to do this, and this is the thing that you have to do, and somebody's giving you this advice, that advice. Well, you need to have the leading or the guiding of the shepherd. God will open up our eyes and our ears if we're staying in his word and listening to his voice. He will lead us beside the still waters. Now, the thing about sheep, excuse me, sheep, they don't mind, they will drink from running water. Running water is a place where there's the water's being purified. It's not stagnant. It's not still, and so it's refreshing water. But here, when he says he leads me beside the still water, because sheep don't really like to be around running water, because if they get into running water and they get stuck in there, they won't get stuck. They'll get washed away with all the wool on them. And if they get into running water, that they would prefer to be around still water. And so, and here also meaning a shepherd is always going to get water and pour it into something so the sheep can come in and receive it. And that's the stillness of the water, that they can just drink the waters from that. But even in when they're out in the pasture and they're near a pond or a lake, that they can get water easily, that is comforting to the sheep, because they don't have to worry about that flowing water that they may get washed away in. And so the sheep try to avoid that at some points in time. But here it says, he leads me beside the still waters. The other thing about this message here is as he leads us and guides us to the still waters, those are the comforting areas of our life. If you ever been out and just been out by the lake and just spread you a blanket, you can just have so much peace and comfort there. And the Good Shepherd is not only taking you to a place, making you to lie down in a quiet, smooth, soft place to lay down, nothing hard and rough, but he's also giving you refreshing water that you can lie down and you don't have to worry about being trapped up in something. That's the good thing about God, because there are some people who will bring some things to you and it's a trap that'll get you trapped into something. You need to watch out and fear what they're leading you into. Yeah, we can give you all of these places that are popping up, these 24/7 loan companies. Yeah, we'll give you money any time of day you want. Just come on in. And you think that's your still water, that they're leading you into something that you can have some relief from one bill, but you're just creating a nightmare by getting into that high interest rate. And so he leads me beside the still waters, because he has caused me to lay down in a comforting place that I can take the cares of the world off of me. But he also takes me into a place where there's a refreshing and there's a peaceful refreshing, that I don't have to worry about getting caught up in some things that might be danger to me. He makes me. He leads me. And lastly, he restores. Look at verse 3. It says, he restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. He restores my soul. And that's that's a wonderful provision of God, that he can restore our soul. He can give us back the life that we once had. You know, when you get so burdened down in things, you get gloomy, you get sad, you get depressed, and your soul may be in such a depressed state, and that you're dealing with all of these things, that we turn to things that are no good for us sometimes. Whether it's in drinking, or we drink too much, or if it's going out and hanging out with friends and doing some things that you know you shouldn't do, smoking, drinking, or whatever else it may be, or getting into sexual activities to try to take your mind off of things. And so we get caught up in those things. But here it says, he restores my soul. And you know, we're in this season of homecomings and class reunions, and it's good to go back and see your friends and to reunite with them and talk about the way things were. And as the older we get, looking back on some of those things that we did in our younger days, it's a joyful time to know that we were able to still survive, and still here we are able to move forward in life with some of the crazy things we've done, and then just some of the joyful things we've done. Have you ever stopped, and when you're out and about and you look at young people that are in love, they're holding hands, they're talking and whispering to each other, sitting by each other, giggling, laughing. It brings newness of life to you. You remember those days. And not that they have to be gone just because you're 64 years old, classmates. You have to find ways to renew those things. And God will restore the life into your soul. When you've been dealing with so many things that just had you weighted down, burdened down so heavy that you think that there's no point in living anymore. And there's so many people that are faced with those things. My wife was just telling me there's so many young people going into the hospitals now for suicide, and looking out for them. They're just young children. They're facing all sorts of things now, and with this pandemic that has occurred and all the other things that are happening, that people need to have their souls restored. The life that God has once given to us in the beginning, that God will restore those things to us, even when we drift away. And when you think about the psalmist David, he had gone through quite a bit in his life. He had been anointed king, and then he was chased away by the current king. He didn't fight against the king, and he even spared the king's life, let him know that I could have taken your life. But he was chased and hunted and run down. But here, now that he is king, he is receiving that refreshing of his soul. His life has been restored to him. And that's what God will do. He will give us back the things that we need, no matter what situations in life we find ourselves in. Whatever things have been causing us such distress, whatever things have caused us to be so down or depressed, that God will restore our souls. And he will lead us into those places that we can be refreshed and renewed, that we can lay down at peace and still wake up the next day knowing that God is our provider. The Lord is my shepherd is the series that we're dealing with. And today we're dealing with he makes me, leads me, and restores me. If you need to be renewed and need some restoration in your life, give your life to Jesus. You can contact us at the number on this announcement of this post at 615-473-5464 and leave a message, or you can email me at pastornewbeginnings, all one word, pastornewbeginnings, HOW, @gmail.com. We look forward to seeing you on tomorrow at 10 o'clock Central Standard Time for our worship services here at this location on Facebook. God bless you and God keep you is my prayer.